My name is Natalie Brooks. I'm 32, and I make my living as a corporate lawyer in Seattle, where hesitation can kill a deal, and one careless signature can cost millions. I thought I knew how to recognize a bad situation. Then my brother called me that afternoon. "Natalie, Dad's in the emergency room." His voice was shaking. "They need $15,000 before they can operate. Send it. Right now." I was out of my chair before he finished speaking. My father had never complained about chest pain. He hadn't mentioned feeling sick. There had been no warning. "Why isn't Dad calling me?" I asked. "They sedated him," my brother said. "There's no time to explain." That sentence stopped me. No time. I had spent years learning that the people trying hardest to rush you were often the ones who didn't want me thinking clearly. So I grabbed my coat, left an unsigned acquisition agreement sitting on my desk, and drove straight to the hospital. I still hadn't sent the money. If my father truly needed emergency surgery, I could verify it. Medical records, a doctor, the billing department, something, anything. But when I reached my father's room, a nurse suddenly stepped into the hallway. She looked at me. Then she looked behind me. Without saying a word, she grabbed my wrist and pulled me into a tiny supply closet. "Don't make a sound," she whispered. My heart started pounding. "You need to hear what they're planning." She left the door cracked open just enough for me to see the room. A few seconds later, my brother walked in. And he was laughing. Not nervous. Not worried. Laughing. Then I saw my father. The man I had rushed across Seattle to save. The man who was supposedly sedated and waiting for emergency surgery. He suddenly sat upright in the hospital bed. No pain, no confusion, no IV, and no sign that he had ever been sick. He looked toward the doorway, almost as if he were waiting for someone to give him a signal. That was the moment I realized the $15,000 wasn't the real emergency. Something much bigger was being staged inside that hospital room, and somehow, I was the person they expected to walk straight into it. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me where you're watching from. I want to know how far this story travels. The nurse closed the door until only a thin strip of light remained. I wanted answers, but she placed one finger against her lips and pointed toward the hallway. "She'll pay," my brother said outside. "Natalie always pays when Dad is involved." My fear sharpened into focus. I opened the recording app on my phone, dimmed the screen, and held it close to the narrow opening. Another man answered him. His voice was calm and authoritative. "Your sister is a corporate attorney. She'll examine the paperwork." "Not if she thinks Dad could die," my brother replied. "She'll see the hospital logo, the room, and the emergency language. After that, she'll stop thinking like a lawyer." The nurse leaned close to my ear. "Your father was admitted for routine observation. There is no surgery scheduled." My brother continued. "Once she signs the financial guarantee, she'll transfer the money to the account listed on the invoice. By the time billing discovers it, the money will be gone." The other man nodded. The nurse silently mouthed the man's identity. "Dr. Mercer." I had seen him near the nurse's station. He had access to medical records, hospital forms, and the authority to make frightened families comply. "What about her father?" Dr. Mercer asked. "He thinks this is a loyalty test." My stomach tightened. Until that moment, I had assumed Dad was an innocent patient being used as a prop. "Dad thinks Natalie cares more about work than family," my brother said. "I told him we'd pretend he had a health scare and see how fast she came." "You didn't tell him about the money?" "He would have refused." Papers slid across a nearby counter. "This form makes her financially responsible for a private payment," Dr. Mercer said. "If she reads it carefully, she may notice the account isn't controlled by the hospital." "She won't read it carefully. I'll tell her every minute puts Dad at greater risk." I remembered all the money I had already given my brother. Rent after his restaurant failed. Car payments he couldn't make. A loan he promised to repay, but never did. Every rescue had ended with Dad asking me not to embarrass him by demanding accountability. "I'm Lena," the nurse whispered. "I saw Dr. Mercer create an urgent procedure order in your father's chart. When I questioned it, he deleted it." "The audit system should still show that," I said. She looked surprised by how calm I sounded. The frightened daughter was still inside me, but she was no longer making my decisions. "Did you hear them discuss the payment?" I asked. "Only part of it. Enough to know you must not sign anything out there." Dad spoke for the first time. "I still don't understand why there's a payment form." "Hospitals require paperwork," my brother answered. "Natalie will refuse at first, and then we'll tell her it was only a test." "That isn't what you told me." "Nothing's going to happen." Dr. Mercer remained silent. His silence confirmed that my father didn't know the full plan. He wasn't innocent. He had agreed to frighten me, but he had not agreed to steal from me. Then my brother's phone rang. "I'll have the 15,000 today," he said. "Just give me until 5. When the call ended, Dr. Mercer looked at him. "Who is that?" "Someone who invested in my restaurant." "Investors don't usually threaten people in hospital hallways." "He'll disappear once Natalie pays." "You said there was no danger. And you said your legal problem would disappear once you paid your attorney." Their partnership suddenly made perfect sense. My brother needed money to pay off dangerous debts. Dr. Mercer needed money to cover up a professional complaint. Each man had chosen the other because desperation made betrayal seem like the safest option. "Adam," Dad said firmly, "give me my phone. I'm calling Natalie, and I'm ending this." Hearing my brother's name felt different now. Adam had always been the person I protected from his own bad decisions. Now he was using our father's life as leverage against me. "You always choose her," Adam snapped. "This is not about choosing Natalie." "It always is. She succeeds. I fail. And you expect me to smile while she saves everyone." There was pain beneath his anger, but it did not excuse what he was doing. Resentment hadn't forced him to create false medical records. It had only helped him justify it. Lena slipped out and quietly notified her supervisor, hospital compliance and security. I remained inside, recording as Adam instructed Dad to lie down and close his eyes. They were preparing to stage the emergency for me. I watched the timer move across my screen and wondered how many years Adam had spent studying the exact fears that would make me obey. Lena returned with a compliance director named Miranda Cole and 2 security officers waiting just around the corner. Miranda asked me to remain hidden until they secured the hospital's digital records. If Dr. Mercer realized an investigation had begun, he might try to alter more information. Through the cracked door, I saw him holding a tablet while Adam carried a clipboard bearing the hospital's logo. "Get Dad back into position," Adam said. "Natalie should be here any minute." "I want this stopped," Dad replied. "You asked her for money. You altered my chart." Dr. Mercer entered a temporary order. "It can be removed." "You said this was about proving she still cared about the family." "It is." "Then why are you sending her money to an outside account?" Silence followed. Adam's answer came slowly. "Because asking her honestly never works. She has helped you repeatedly. She makes me sign agreements. She makes me explain everything. She treats me like a failed business she's deciding whether to acquire." I closed my eyes. Adam had always resented my conditions. But those conditions existed because he had lied about earlier loans. He wanted help without questions, money without limits, and forgiveness without change. Dr. Mercer interrupted. "We need to finish." The false order was visible for 6 minutes. If the nurse reported it, compliance may review the audit log. "Can you delete the history?" Adam asked. "Not completely." That sentence mattered. Even if they destroyed the paperwork, The hospital's audit system could establish when Dr. Mercer accessed Dad's chart, what he created, and when he removed it. I forwarded Adam's text messages, the hospital room photo, and the recording to my secure work account. If anyone took my phone, the evidence would still survive. Miranda received confirmation that information security had preserved the audit trail. She nodded toward me. You decide when to confront them. I watched Adam straighten the blanket over Dad's legs. Dad looked ashamed. But shame still hadn't made him stand up and walk away. That was the problem with our family. We often recognized wrongdoing long before we were willing to create consequences for it. Dad had spent years calling peace the absence of confrontation. Adam had learned that if he created enough discomfort, Dad would pressure me to forgive him. And I had learned that being dependable meant fixing every crisis before anyone else had to change. This scheme wasn't separate from our family pattern, it was simply the most extreme version of it. Once she comes in, Adam told Dad, keep your eyes closed. I'll hand her the form. Dr. Mercer will tell her the operation can't begin until she signs. And after she transfers the money? Dad asked. We tell her the emergency wasn't as serious as we feared. That is another lie. Adam's voice hardened. You agreed to help me. Not with this. You agreed because you were angry she missed dinner. I was hurt. I didn't want to rob her. She has more money than she needs. That doesn't make it yours. You sound exactly like her. I had heard enough. I handed Miranda a copy of the recording and stepped toward the door. Before opening it, I asked myself whether exposing Adam would destroy our family. Then I understood the truth. The family had already been damaged. Silence would only protect the people responsible for it. I walked into Dad's room as though I had just arrived. Adam turned toward me and instantly changed his expression. Natalie, thank God. Dad's condition is getting worse. He rushed over with the clipboard. We need your signature and the $15,000 transfer right now. Dad lay still with his eyes closed. Dr. Mercer stood beside a monitor displaying completely normal readings. There was no surgical team, no transport equipment, and no real emergency. What procedure does he need? I asked. Adam pushed the clipboard closer. There's no time to explain every detail. What is the diagnosis? I asked Dr. Mercer. Possible cardiac complications. Who is the surgeon? A specialist is being contacted. Which specialist? Adam stepped between us. Stop interrogating everyone. Dad could die while you argue. I looked directly at the bed. Dad, open your eyes. He's sedated, Adam said. No, he isn't. I raised my phone and played the recording. Adam's laughter filled the room. Then his own words echoed through the speakers. She'll pay. Natalie always pays when Dad is involved. Dad opened his eyes. Dr. Mercer started toward the door but stopped when Miranda and the two security officers stepped inside. Adam stared at me, but he didn't panic. You were hiding and recording us. You told me Dad needed emergency surgery. You misunderstood a private conversation. I heard you discuss a false order, an outside account, and removing the paperwork after the money arrived. Nothing happened, Adam insisted. You didn't transfer anything. Miranda walked into the room and identified herself. Dr. Mercer, place the tablet on the counter and step away from it. This is a family misunderstanding, he said. Then the audit trail will establish that. Adam held out the clipboard. Read it. You'll see this isn't fraud. I accepted it carefully. The first page looked professional, but the billing address was outdated. The contact number was a cell phone, and the transfer instructions directed payment to a company called Northwest Patient Support Services. Then I saw Dad's signature. Did you sign this? I asked. Dad sat upright and examined the page. No, that's my old signature. I said it was copied from a previous document. Dr. Mercer claimed the form had already been in the chart. Lena stepped into the room. Your credentials created the order attached to it. You had no authority to review that file, he snapped. I was assigned to the patient. Miranda raised a hand, ending the argument. The audit history has been preserved. Adam turned to Dad. Tell them you agreed to this. Dad swallowed. I agreed to pretend I had a minor health scare because I was angry Natalie kept missing family dinners. I did not agree to steal money or forge my signature. You knew we were testing whether she cared, Adam said. I thought we were going to tell her the truth when she arrived. And you believed she would refuse to make the payment? I asked. Dad nodded miserably. Adam told me the form was only part of the performance. I felt betrayed by both of them, even though their guilt was not equal. We'll discuss your part later, I told Dad. Right now, stop protecting him. Adam's expression changed. There it is. Natalie becomes the lawyer and everyone falls in line. Why were you laughing? I asked. He frowned. What? If you believed Dad needed help, why were you laughing? Adam had no answer. That question stripped away every excuse. He had enjoyed knowing I was afraid. Miranda instructed the security officers to block the doorway. Adam glanced toward the hallway, then at the clipboard, and finally at the phone containing his own recorded voice. You have 30 seconds, I told him. For what? Tell compliance who controls the account and whether any other records were altered, or keep lying while the hospital retrieves the messages, security footage, and audit history. Is that a threat? No. It's your last opportunity to tell the truth before the evidence does it for you. Will you forgive me if I confess? No. He flinched. Every previous conflict had ended with me reducing the consequences. Not this time. Then why should I say anything? Because honesty may affect what happens next. It won't erase what you did. He looked toward Dad for help. Dad remained silent. 10 seconds, I said. Dr. Mercer told Adam not to say another word without an attorney. Shut up, Adam snapped. 5. Adam closed his eyes. The account belongs to a company I created last month. Dr. Mercer was supposed to receive 5,000. 8,000. Dr. Mercer corrected automatically. Everyone turned toward him. With a single sentence, he destroyed his own denial. Miranda took the clipboard. Both of you will remain here while we notify law enforcement. Adam stared at me. You're really doing this to your own brother? No, I said. I'm finally refusing to stop you from doing it to yourself. We were moved to a conference room while another physician examined Dad and confirmed that he needed no surgery. Hospital security remained outside the door. Miranda, a hospital attorney, an information security specialist, and Lena's supervisor documented everything. I described the phone call, Adam's messages, my arrival, and the conversation I had recorded. I avoided emotional language. Facts were more damaging than anger. The information security specialist confirmed that Dr. Mercer's credentials had been used to create an urgent procedure order in Dad's active medical chart. He had accessed one of Dad's older forms shortly before the forged signature appeared. He had also downloaded a retired billing template containing the outdated address. The specialist explained that deleting an order removed it only from the normal display. The system still recorded who created it, which workstation was used, what fields were changed, and the exact time every action occurred. Dr. Mercer claimed it had been a training error. Miranda asked why a training document directed money to Adam's company. He then claimed Adam had misled him. Adam blamed Dr. Mercer for designing the invoice. Their alliance collapsed immediately. Every accusation filled in another missing piece. Dr. Mercer admitted copying Dad's signature but said Adam had requested it. Adam admitted creating the company but claimed Dr. Mercer had made it look like a legitimate hospital service. You told me families never question anything when they think surgery is urgent, Adam said. You told me your sister was already expecting to pay, Dr. Mercer replied. I said she could pay, Adam answered. I never said she agreed. Then Miranda asked whether the account had received any earlier payments. Adam stopped talking. 2 small transfers, he finally admitted. From whom? People who owed me money. Why would they send money to a company called Northwest Patient Support Services? Adam had no convincing answer. They used the account because it was available. Did either of those people have a relative treated at this hospital? Miranda asked. Adam's silence answered before he did. The hospital attorney recommended contacting the Financial Crimes Unit and preserving every account connected to the company. Dad immediately asked whether police involvement was really necessary. I looked at him. Even after admitting his own mistake, he was still searching for a softer consequence for Adam. Attempted fraud does not become harmless simply because Natalie discovered it, Miranda said. Dad lowered his eyes. He's still her brother. That's exactly why he knew which fear to use, I replied. A stranger wouldn't have known what picture to send or which words would make me abandon everything. Adam leaned back in his chair. You finally got what you wanted, Natalie. Now everyone sees you were right about me. I never wanted to be right about this. You kept records of every dollar you gave me because you never believed me. I kept records because you changed your story every time. You made your own brother sign repayment agreements. You lied about why you needed the money. Adam's anger slowly gave way to exhaustion. For the first time, he looked less like a confident manipulator and more like a man who had run out of exits. The restaurant was supposed to work, he said quietly. I borrowed from one person to repay another. Every lie created another deadline. I knew if I told you the truth, you'd demand a plan. Because money doesn't solve a problem someone refuses to face. You always needed to be the responsible one. No. Everyone needed me to be responsible because you refused to be. You liked being needed. His accusation struck a place I had avoided examining. Part of me had taken pride in being the person who solved every crisis. But taking pride in helping didn't make me responsible for Adam's fraud. Maybe I did, I admitted. That still didn't give you permission to manufacture a medical emergency. He looked surprised that I had conceded anything. Every time I rescued you, I may have delayed the consequences you needed. That was my mistake. I held his gaze. Today, I'm correcting it. Dad covered his face. I helped create this, he whispered. Adam turned toward him. Don't confess for me. I'm confessing for myself. Every time Natalie asked you to repay her, I called her cold. Every time you created another emergency, I pressured her to rescue you. I convinced myself that protecting you from shame was love. He looked at me. And I used my health to punish you because I felt forgotten. I believe you didn't know about the theft, I said. But pretending you were seriously ill was still cruel. I know. You watched Adam send me a picture designed to make me believe I might lose you. Dad's eyes filled with tears. I convinced myself we'd tell you the truth quickly and laugh about how fast you came. You believed my panic would become a family joke. He lowered his head. When you say it that way, I hear how terrible it was. There isn't a kinder way to say it. Will you forgive me? I don't know. The answer hurt him, but immediate forgiveness would only repeat the pattern our family had lived with for years. This isn't about punishing you, I said. I need to know whether I can trust you again. 2 detectives arrived and separated us for interviews. Before Adam was escorted away, he turned toward me. Tell them you don't want to press charges. This is no longer up to me alone. Your statement matters. So do the forged signature, the false medical record, and the other payments. You have the power to stop this. You counted on my power when you wanted money. Now you're angry because I won't use it to erase your choices. If I go to jail, Dad will be alone. Don't use him again. Adam looked at Dad, expecting support. Dad stared down at the table. I won't ask her, he said. The detectives escorted Adam from the room without another word. My interview lasted nearly an hour. The detectives asked about Adam's previous loans, his company, and whether Dr. Mercer had ever contacted me before that day. I answered only what I knew and provided documentation whenever I could. I gave them copies of Adam's payment requests and earlier messages in which he had changed his explanation for needing money. I made it clear those earlier lies were background information, not proof of the hospital scheme. By then, the hospital's audit records had already established that Dr. Mercer created the false order, accessed Dad's old signature, and deleted the order after Lena questioned it. The account belonged to Adam's company, which had been registered 32 days earlier through a mailbox service. Dr. Mercer was immediately suspended, his badge was deactivated, and his patients were reassigned. The hospital reported him to the medical board and law enforcement. Adam was detained after investigators discovered that Northwest Patient Support Services had already received other suspicious transfers. While we waited, Dad sat beside me in the hallway. "Did you know he hated you that much?" he asked. "He resented me. I didn't know he believed that gave him the right to use my fear against me. I compared you too often." "Yes." "I thought praising you would motivate him. Instead, it made me responsible for how he reacted to every success." Dad nodded slowly. "I also assumed you didn't need support because you were successful. When Adam struggled, everyone reorganized their lives around him. When I struggled, everyone assumed I'd figure it out on my own. You could have told me?" "I could have. You also could have asked, instead of deciding my empty chair meant I didn't care." "I missed you." "Then you should have said that." "I was afraid you'd tell me you were too busy." "So you created a situation where I couldn't say no without believing you might die." He looked down. "There is no defense for that." Across the hall, Adam emerged with one of the detectives. "Dad, tell them you agreed to everything," he demanded. Dad stood slowly. "I agreed to the fake health scare. I did not agree to the money or the forged signature." "You're choosing her again?" "No," Dad replied. "I'm choosing not to lie again. Helping me would mean remembering I'm your son." Dad's voice broke. "I remember. That's why this hurts." "No, it hurts because she's watching. Stop blaming her for what you asked me to do." It was the first time I had heard Dad confront Adam without immediately softening his words. Adam looked at me. "Are you happy now?" "No." "You won." "There was nothing to win. You've got Dad, the hospital, and the police treating you like the hero. You made people believe Dad could die because you needed money. I needed a way out. You had choices. You rejected every choice that required the truth." Adam looked away. The detectives escorted him through a secured door. Watching him leave didn't make me feel powerful. It made me realize that revenge isn't always watching someone suffer. Sometimes it's simply refusing to protect them from the natural consequences of what they've done. Later, Miranda informed us that 2 patient accounts connected to Dr. Mercer were being audited. Each contained a deleted note referencing a private coordination fee. That didn't yet prove Adam and Dr. Mercer had taken money from those families, but it showed the hospital incident might not have been their first attempt. "How many people could they have frightened?" Dad whispered. "That's what investigators need to determine," I said. His expression tightened as he realized his so-called loyalty test had not only enabled Adam, but may also have given him the perfect opportunity to repeat a much larger scheme. Dad and I drove home in silence. "I thought you'd transfer the money before coming to the hospital," he admitted. Adam thought so too. "Would you have paid if the surgery had been real?" Yes. He stared out the window. That makes this even worse. Yes. Adam didn't need to trick me into helping. He tricked me because asking honestly would have required him to accept limits, and because he wanted to prove he could still make me come running. I glanced at him. You understand that now? I understand that I helped him turn love into a test you could never pass. If I came, he controlled me. If you didn't, Dad said quietly, we would have called you selfish. When we arrived at Dad's house, he asked me to come inside. Not tonight, I said. I need some distance. Fear crossed his face, but he nodded. Will you call tomorrow? I'll call when I'm ready. He accepted the answer, even though it hurt him. I'm sorry I made you prove something you'd already proven your entire life. It was the first apology that showed he truly understood the wound he had caused. The investigation continued for 5 months. Northwest Patient Support Services had received 3 earlier transfers totaling more than $11,000. 2 families had been told they needed private deposits for expedited medical services. Dr. Mercer created temporary notes in the patient's medical records, and Adam presented himself as a financial coordinator. One family paid after being told a delay could prevent their elderly relative from seeing a specialist. Another believed the money covered equipment not included in the hospital's standard billing. Neither payment had gone to the hospital. Their scheme had been tested on strangers before they used Dad's fake emergency against me. Prosecutors charged Adam with attempted fraud, forgery, conspiracy, and additional offenses related to the earlier payments. Dr. Mercer faced similar charges for abusing hospital access and altering medical records. The hospital terminated his employment. The state medical board suspended, and later revoked, his medical license after investigators uncovered another complaint involving falsified treatment notes. His attempt to hide one professional problem by creating new false records ultimately destroyed the career he had been trying to save. Messages recovered from Adam's phone removed any remaining doubt about his intentions. One read, "Natalie is perfect because she has money and will never report family." Another said, "Even if she finds out, Dad will make her forgive me." A third described me as the safest target because she always needs to believe she's protecting everyone. When Dad read those messages, he sat in silence for several minutes. He was counting on me, Dad said. Yes. He believed I would help him avoid accountability because that's what we taught him. Dad smoothed the papers across the table. I thought keeping the family together was my responsibility. Keeping people together isn't the same as keeping them healthy. I see that now. You see the damage now. Changing the pattern will take much longer. Adam initially pleaded not guilty and claimed the hospital incident had been nothing more than a family misunderstanding. That defense became impossible after investigators recovered his conversations with Dr. Mercer and testimony from the previous families. He eventually accepted a plea agreement. He was sentenced to 22 months in custody, followed by supervised release, and ordered to pay restitution to the affected families. Dr. Mercer received a longer sentence because he had abused his professional position, targeted multiple patients, and attempted to conceal the medical records. There was no dramatic courtroom celebration. Adam stood before the judge and admitted that he had knowingly used false medical information to obtain money. When the judge asked whether anyone had forced him, he answered, no. When asked whether he understood that the scheme depended on terrifying families, his voice dropped before he quietly answered, yes. He looked toward me. I neither smiled nor looked away. I wanted him to see that I was present without mistaking my presence for rescue. After sentencing, his attorney handed me a letter. Adam apologized for using Dad's health and forging his signature. He admitted that he had spent years interpreting my success as a personal accusation against him. But near the end, he wrote that I could have prevented everything from becoming public. I never responded. An apology that still blames the victim is simply another form of negotiation. Dad visited him twice. After the first visit, he told me Adam had spent most of the conversation insisting his sentence was unfair. During the second visit, Adam asked why Dad hadn't convinced me to pay for a private attorney. "What did you tell him?" I asked. "I told him your money was never the family's emergency fund." The answer surprised me because Dad had spent years treating my financial stability as something the entire family could rely on. "You've changed," I said. He shook his head. "No. The truth changed me." Dad began attending counseling. He stopped asking me to forgive him on a schedule. When he missed me, he simply said so instead of trying to make me feel guilty. He also added another trusted person as one of his medical emergency contacts, so I would no longer carry that responsibility alone. Finally, he signed a directive requiring independent verification before any large medical payment could be authorized. I changed too. I stopped responding immediately to every family request. I stopped offering money before understanding the actual problem. At work, I admitted that being the dependable one had become part of my identity. I had convinced myself that saying no would make me selfish, or worse, unnecessary. Boundaries didn't make me less generous. They made generosity a choice again. 6 months after the hospital call, I returned to Dad's house for dinner. A childhood photograph of Adam and me still sat on the shelf. In it, we were smiling beside a lake, his arm resting across my shoulders. We looked like two people who believed we'd always protect each other. "I almost took it down," Dad said. "Why didn't you?" "Because pretending the good years never happened would be another lie." "The memories are real," I said. "They just don't erase what came afterward." "Do you think you'll ever trust him again?" "I don't know." "Do you still consider him your brother?" I looked at the photograph. "He's my brother by birth. Whether he becomes someone I allow back into my life depends on what he does when there's no one left to rescue him." Before I left, Dad handed me copies of his updated medical and financial directives. Any large payment now required independent verification. "I never want anyone to use my health against you again," he said, including me. "Thank you." It wasn't complete forgiveness, but it was evidence of real change. Outside, my phone rang. The caller ID showed the correctional facility. Adam had tried to reach me before, but I had never answered. I let the first call go to voicemail. When he called again, I answered. "Natalie," he said. His voice sounded smaller than I remembered. I read my letter again. The last part was wrong. "You didn't make this public." "I did when I decided to use Dad in that hospital to steal your money." "Yes." "I kept thinking that if you'd stayed quiet, I'd still have my life." "You mean you'd still have access to other people's trust?" He didn't argue. "Is there anything I can do?" "Tell the complete truth about the other families. Pay restitution when you can. Stop using Dad to contact me. And understand that none of those things earns you a relationship with me." "Then how do I get my sister back?" "You don't get me back as a reward. You become someone who's safe enough to know. Then I decide." He was silent for a long moment. "I don't know how to do that," he finally admitted. "For once," I said. "Figure something out without making someone else pay for it." Before the call ended, Adam apologized again. This time, there was no excuse afterward, and no request for forgiveness. "I heard you," I replied. I didn't promise another phone call. Adam had believed my love could be measured by how quickly I paid, how much pain I absorbed, and how easily I forgave. He was wrong. Love without truth isn't loyalty, it's surrender. The consequence Adam feared wasn't that I had destroyed his life. It was that I had finally allowed his own choices to reach him without stepping in to protect him from them. Whether he changed would be his responsibility. Whether I forgave him would be mine. and one question remained. When your own brother uses your deepest fear against you, do you keep calling him your brother simply because you share the same blood? Or do you wait until his actions make that word true again? Thank you for staying with me until the very last line. All characters and situations in this story are fictional and created solely for entertainment, reflection, and educational purposes. We hope this story reminds you that your life should never be shaped by people who notice your pain only when it affects them. You deserve relationships where your feelings matter long before they become an inconvenience.